Well, I think everybody's creative, just in different ways and to different degrees. If you're not doing work because you're afraid that it sucks, just do it. It's okay.
Welcome to the Just Be Creative podcast. I am Katie Norsworthy, and this is my husband, Christopher Norsworthy.
Hello, everybody. People normally just call me Krist. She is a photographer, and I am a couple of different things. Marketing director, and a graphic designer, and
Illustrator,
a dad,
a pastor.
You can find us online on Instagram, on Facebook, at Just Be Creative Pod. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The title of today's podcast is Your Work Sucks, But That's Okay. I have a way of putting things.
He's a great encourager.
Well, yeah, so the idea is that, I think everybody's creative, just in different ways and to different degrees. And kind of what we're talking about today is, if you're not doing work because you're afraid that it sucks, just do it. It's okay. Just be creative.
Just be creative.
And I'll talk about why you should do that and some kind of inspirational things, or maybe some ideas to kind of get your motors moving in terms of ways to be creative. Because a lot of people, literally someone today just said they're in a creative slump. And I was like, yeah, we're kind of talking about that tonight, because she doesn't know what to do. And one of the we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I had a similar conversation with a friend about 40 minutes ago.
Was it me?
No.
Oh.
But she said the same thing, that she thought she was good at decorating, and obviously she's not, because she's hit a slump, and she's afraid she's not good at decorating anymore. And I told her no. Well, I told her, first off, you need to listen to our podcast. And second off, I told her that you are good, and that's why you're having a hard time with it, because you want it to be great.
Right. Like my mom, who she's never held a job as a creative, but she's very good at decorating the house and keeping that together and stuff. Whereas my dad was gifted in drawing and things like that, which is probably why I was able to be a graphic designer, because I'm I can organize things and put them in a grid, in a square, which is what a house is, floor plan, and then I'm good at drawing. So I just put those two things together and, artistically organizing things. Different people, as I said, are creative in different areas. So I think this is going to apply broadly, whether it is you just drawing or wanting to, be a photographer or musician or whatever it might be. Today's topic will kind of help you move past that hump, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. You want to shout out to our listener winner?
Oh.
Shout out to Darrell Vilmoret.
Mm-hmm.
She, on Facebook, told us the difference between effect and effect. And
right.
also shout out to Misty McTurnan, who on Instagram shouted out how to use effect and effect correctly. Yes. So thank you, Misty, and thank you, Darrell, for listening and informing us on the correct usage of the words effect and effect.
I'm still going to use them wrong. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was that your work is not as good as it can be yet. One of the things is that I think stops people from doing work at all, much less doing good work, is that it's not as good as it can be. They don't think it's as good as it can be. You kind of, I don't want to tell tales, but you were struggling with that this week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And kind of one of the reasons that it inspired me to do this podcast today was because you just kind of came through that. Well, can you explain the photo shoot that you had a few days ago?
Yeah, sure. So I was asked by an acquaintance she just got diagnosed on Friday the 13th of all days, March 13th. She got diagnosed with breast cancer. She starts chemo this week, and she wanted to, on Saturday, shave her head because she's going to lose her hair pretty quickly with the chemotherapy. And in a way to kind of stick it to the cancer, she wants to, take control of the situation and shave her head. And she asked me if I would photograph. She has a husband and 3 boys, and if I would photograph the experience of all the boys agreed that they would shave their head and then they were going to shave hers. I told her yes, of course. I would love to do it, but then I got really, really nervous. For one thing, I've never done that before. I don't do really good on things where I have one shot to do it. It gives me a lot of anxiety. I struggle with anxiety in those situations.
Like weddings.
Yeah, weddings give me a lot of anxiety. You have one chance to get the bride and groom kissing when they say you may now kiss the bride. And if you miss it, you miss it. The good thing about what I mostly do is if I miss it, I can just say, oh, I messed up. We need to do that again. You know, if I'm at one of my schools, I'm photographing the kid, I can look, oh, the flash didn't go off, call that kid back, and we'll take that kid's picture again. But with shaving, a woman shaving her head, that's one chance. If I would have done anything wrong, and there is a list of 10 million things that could go wrong in a photo shoot, and if I get anything wrong, she's not going to have pictures. There's that part of it of I might mess something up. There's another part of it of someone else would do a better job than I would. I'm not going to be able to capture this moment. It's just going to be these dull looking pictures. And I've seen on social media before these photographers and they capture these beautiful pictures and there's no way I'm going to be able to give this woman what she wants in this session.
Yeah.
And
so you were very anxious about it. And then, like you said, you put a razor to the head or whatever, the hair's gone, you can't redo it. So you were kind of worried about that. We had a conversation, we kind of walked through that. And I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit to my second point. What you said was when you came home, I asked how it went. I knew it went good, but I asked how it went, and you said, I feel like a better photographer could have done a better job.
yeah, I said that.
That's what you said.
That's what I had said.
And in my encouraging way, I said something along the lines of, no duh. Like, of course, a better photographer could have done a better job.
Yes.
But so what? There's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be something for you to achieve, someone to inspire you.
Yeah.
Or, I guess on the flip side, somebody to make you feel self-conscious. Not even them. You allow their work to make you feel self-conscious. You allow their work and your inspiration by them or how good you see that they do. In your opinion, you allow that to affect you and make yourself feel bad. And make yourself feel like, well, I could never do that. Well, guess what? Anybody who can do what somebody else does, that's called, a thief. Nobody wants to see you do what somebody else would do. Somebody wants to see what you would do. I like what Conan O'Brien said. He said, it is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique. So it is our lack of ability to become the thing that we want or the thing that we see, whether you're a musician or visual artist or whatever. You see those things, it inspires you. You fail at it, but in your own way, in their own way, everybody who you're looking up to has failed.
Yeah.
They've not achieved the thing that they want to achieve. And some of them haven't achieved it yet. And whenever they do achieve it, in our eyes, in their own eyes, they still haven't achieved it. It's good to have inspiration. It's good to have people that you look to be like, oh, like I wish my stuff looked like them. And then that makes your stuff better. But it's because it's a mixture of you and a mixture of them and the work that you have to work with. As a photographer, it's kind of weird, like you're working on multiple levels. You're almost in a lot of ways, and in this instance, you're almost like a performing artist, because this is one thing that's going to happen one time. It's one experience, and you're capturing that. And now there's a lot of work that goes in beforehand. There's maybe a lot of work that goes in behind it. But you have to be in the moment when you're doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of what I do, I don't have to be quote unquote in the moment. I could work on a piece, and sometimes do work on a piece for a long time, or I'll pick it back up in a couple months because I hate it, and then in a couple months I'll be like, oh, I guess I'm gonna use that. I'll go back to it, and then I'll end up making it something that I really, really like.
Yeah.
Or sometimes not, but like you just don't know, and that's why, bringing that back around to our first point, your work isn't as good as it can be, and it's not as good as it can be yet. So one quote that's kind of been an inspiration, or not kind of been, it has been an inspiration to me for the last 10 or so years since I first read it. I was really into this guy's art when I went back to school. I was doing painting as my major. His name's Chuck Close. You've seen his stuff because you've seen me take pictures with his stuff and like the Metropolitan Museum of Art. In the 70s and 80s, he was making like giant 13-foot or paintings that were like photorealistics of just like faces.
Oh, he's the one who has the face blindness.
So he has face blindness. He's also
okay, yes.
right.
I know who you're talking about.
He's in a wheelchair.
Okay.
So he does struggle with mobility.
Okay.
And he kind of shifted to almost like a surrealist kind of thing now, where if you're up close, it's all these blobs, but then you walk far away, and you're like, wow, that looks photorealistic of whoever he just painted. So this is the quote he said. He said, "The advice I give to young artists, or really anybody who will listen to me, is not to wait around for inspiration." Here's a key thing. Inspiration is for amateurs. And it's okay if you're an amateur. I'm not talking about that, but, take the heart of the quote. Not inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. If you wait around for the clouds to part and a bolt of lightning to strike you in the brain, you are not going to make an awful lot of work. All the best ideas come out of the process. They come out of the work itself. Things occur to you. If you're sitting around trying to dream up a great art idea, you can sit there for a long time before anything happens. But if you just get to work, something will occur to you, and something else will occur to you, and something else that you reject will push you in another direction. Inspiration is absolutely unnecessary and somehow deceptive. You feel like you need this great idea before you can get down to work, and I find that's almost never the case. So that's, this is coming from somebody who is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, is in, MoMA has some of his work, all kinds of museums. He sells his pieces of work for lots and lots of money. And this is how he says his process is. He doesn't just sit around and wait for inspiration. He gets to work. And then through the work, you're going to have some good things happen that you wouldn't have thought of. And you're going to have some bad things happen. And then you're going to know, pivot here. And that's why I say, your work isn't as good as it can be yet. And I'm not saying you are not as good as you can be yet. Your work's not as good as it can be yet. Because your work isn't going to be good until you start working.
That's true.
Sitting around or trying something for a couple minutes, figuratively. So there's sitting around waiting for something to happen, waiting for the best idea, waiting to grow talent or the ability to do something. That's just not going to happen. The only way, of course, on the ability side, the only way that that's going to come is by you working towards it, because we've all done that. Whether it's learning how to tie our shoes, ride a bike, or play the guitar. And then the same thing goes with your ability to then express yourself and your ability to make to make your work look the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Because even if you do visualize something, unless you're working in it, you're not going to get there unless you know how to do it.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of both of those things.
It just reminds me of something I've told so many people. I've done that class before, that beginning photography for moms. And I told all my moms then, and just when people ask me in general, as far as photography goes, what can I do? I have this camera. I want to use it. And the best thing you can do is practice. These things used to be very hard to me when it comes to operating a camera. There's so many things that go into it. And now it's second nature to me because I've done it. I mean, the best thing you can do is just continue photographing. Just go outside, and just photograph. And it's really hard right now, but the more and more you do it, the more it just becomes second nature. I can do those things. They're just as easy as breathing. It's like riding a bike. It's so hard at first, and you keep falling, and you skin your knees, and you're scared, and now you don't even, I rode a bike the other day. Honestly, now you don't have to think about it, but I rode a bike for the first time the other day, and I was like, it's not like riding a bike. But I was never a very good bike rider to begin with, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
There's that. But so I guess it's the same thing, too, in the creative element. And I guess I feel like there's this separation in my brain. I have a very analytical side, I worked in accounting for 4 years, and there's that side of my brain I use. My degree is in business, very much analytical, and this is what you do to get this result. And I don't feel like I exercise that creative muscle a lot. Like, I feel like as far as my photography goes, I've never felt like an artist. I'm like, I know how to manipulate the things in almost a scientific way
or sculpturally
to come up with a result. I've always felt like there's a separation, but maybe there's not. Like, it's not like this amazingly creative person who's like, oh, this wonderful, talented artist can just pick up a camera and take a pretty picture. They have to know how to, it's a piece of equipment.
Right.
They have to know how to work. So maybe I've undersold myself there a little bit.
We're all familiar with Bob Ross and his happy little trees.
His what?
His happy little trees.
Oh.
Here's a happy little
I thought
tree.
you said happy little truths, and I was like,
well,
I don't remember that.
Right. Here's a happy little truth. Is one of the things he would always say is happy mistakes. And those are mistakes that sometimes again, it's the process. And you do something on accident, but you have to stick with it. And then, maybe as a photographer, you're like, oh, I did that on accident, but that's kind of cool. If I do this, it'll be something.
Yeah.
As a painter, he would get the paint down on the canvas and then be like, oh, well, I can't just erase it. I'm going to have to work with it.
Yeah.
And then you find something new there. And that's why a lot of people say that creativity is an act of discovery. If you want to sit down before you go to that photo shoot we were talking about and think of some shots, get some inspiration for those shots, that's good to do.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, it's your job. It's the goal you're setting out to do. And you want to have a good piece of work on the end of it. It's self-fulfilling for you and for your client. But then also while you're there, you probably saw things that you never would have thought before. So just for instance, if you're like, she paid me, this isn't how it works, but if it worked with, she paid me for 15 pictures, but I can only think of 8 picture shots that I'm going to list. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Whenever you get there, you're going to take 100 photos. Because, the where you are, the way the sun is, the way anything is or might inspire you, or something you notice it through your lens is going to inspire you, and you discover the work as you're working.
Yeah.
And I think that quote, when I was talking about inspiration or good ideas, they don't just strike you. Sometimes they do. And I've had that before. Sometimes they strike you, but it's usually, not always, but usually whenever it's like a bolt of lightning that hits me on something I'm already working on.
So you've started the work.
I've started the work already, and then my brain is just working and it's picking up things that I don't even realize. And then I'll be in the shower and think, oh, that's great. And I'll have to get out the shower and like talk it into my phone or, write it down, like those kind of things. Starting the work and then having the time sometimes to get away from it, whether it's a car drive, not listening to music, because that distracts me. I love it, but it distracts me. It uses the analytical part of my brain. Go for a walk. Of course, in the shower, like I just said, or, when you're laying in bed, try to go to sleep. Your brain just, all those parts of your brain are running. Well, then keep a notebook or keep your phone near you or whatever so you can put that in there. Because sometimes it is going to strike, but the most important times that inspiration strikes, it's, for me, been things that I've already been working on. And then when I'm not thinking about it, I get that great idea to then make it better.
But you have to start the process.
But I have to start the process.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't talked enough about your work is not as good as it can be yet, and maybe the refining process.
Well, I think one of the things about doing anything, like, or just life in general, like the more you know that you don't know.
Yes. Yes.
So I think like the better you get at something, the more you'll feel bad at it.
It's the confidence of youth.
Well, you say you pick up guitar and you learn 3 chords and you think you are amazing because it feels amazing.
Oh yeah, and you can play that 3-chord Jewel song and like you make everybody listen to it. I'm not saying you do. It was me. It was me who did that.
Right. So you have that enjoyment part, but then you run into the part where like you want to get better, and then the more you get better at something,
you realize you're playing the same rhythm to every single song.
Right. So like the better you get, the worse you realize you are.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean the worse you're actually getting. It just means the worse you feel like it, because you see more, because you're progressing. And that's not necessarily in the creative aspect, but it's definitely in the practical aspects of it. But the more you start to see, again, not thinking about yourself and saying like, oh, like I'm not good at this, like that kind of thing, which we all feel. I'm not making fun of that. We all feel that way sometimes. And why do I even try? Why do I need to set pen to paper?
I want to add that's a healthy thing to feel, because even what I've told people in my life, and it goes with all areas, like if you've ever met anyone, I mean, when it comes to being an artist or being a mother or being a wife or in anything that we are, all these different things that we are, have you ever met anyone who's just like, yeah, I'm really good at that? Like, we've met those people. Do you like those people? I mean, you don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that mom who's just like, I am the best mom. Like, I am so good at it. I am so confident in my mothering. And let me, like, and I think that's for every area of our life. And it goes into art. If someone makes something and they just love everything about it. I mean, when we know people like that,
right.
Like,
and sometimes
it's like not having that self-awareness is a good thing.
Right.
And it's good in not just for being a creative. It's good in all areas of our life. But especially since we are talking about creatives, like that maybe should be something that I don't see so much as a weakness or as a stumbling, the thing that keeps me from doing what I want to do. Like, that's a good thing that I am able to look at my work and to have that self-analytical part of me that can say, okay, this is what you need to do, Katie.
Right. I 100% agree with all of that.
But
on the opposite end of the person who thinks that they're the best at everything, there's the person who doesn't try.
True.
Because they think that they're the worst, or they see their mistakes rather than seeing, like, for the artist, oftentimes the process is the most enjoyable part, because I look back at my work from a week ago, from a couple months ago to a couple years ago, and some of it I'm like, why did I ever do that? Or I hate that, or whatever it is. You know, I can be that way. I can try something and not succeed. I can look at people who are good at something, and any number of those things can stop me from doing it. But for one thing, like, you know, I said that about amateurs earlier. We're all amateurs at different things. But that's okay. Like, it's okay to be an amateur. If you desire to create something and you have the time and the ability to, or the time and the means to be able to do it, or even if it's a little bit, just go ahead and do it. It's okay that it sucks. And that's what I mean about the topic. Like, it's okay that your work sucks. If you keep doing it, it's going to get better. That's just a law of life. If you keep doing something, you're going to get better at it. Yeah. And like I said, there's going to be that slump where you're going to get a little bit better at it, and then percentage-wise, it's like, I'm 3 million times better than I was a month ago. And then it's diminishing returns, I guess, in a certain sense, right? Because, I know 7 chords on the guitar. Well, kind of. That's all of the chords there are, right? So, but now you have to learn the songs, and then you have to make your own songs, and then like
all your songs sound like songs that are already made,
right? And they're not any good. But then there's parts of them that are good, and there's parts of them that are other. There'll be majority other people, and then there'll be some that's you. And then the more you work through it that gets less and less and less. But you're always going to have your influences, and that's okay. And you're always going to have your struggles, and that's okay. Accept both of them. Yeah. And realize that there's people who are better than you, and it's okay. Good. And it's good. It stinks whenever they're younger than you. But like, there's a million different things we can look at and say, this person does this, why should I? Yes. You're not doing it for that person.
That's good.
Right? I mean, yes, there are photographers who are better than you, sweetheart. I love you. But there are photographers who are better than you. And there are photographers who you are better than. Does it help you to know that you're better than some photographers? I mean, yeah. some.
Yeah.
Right? But do you get up every day and say, like, I'm better than some? Like, that's my motivation.
No.
Probably not. But I'm not as good as them. That might be your that might be your motivation not to do something. So I think it's healthy to say, it's okay that I'm not as good as them.
Yes.
It's okay that my work isn't as good as I want it to be, but do I enjoy doing it? Is it fulfilling in what I'm trying to achieve? Am I better than I used to be? Am I as bad as I could be? Like, sometimes that's just enough. Am I as bad as I could be? No. Like, and if I am, then, like, you know, go back to point one where like, you got to be trying to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you hear somebody play piano and you're like, oh, I wish I could play piano like that. It's like,
but you didn't want to put the time. Like, they practiced a lot. They didn't wake up and were able to play.
Right. No, yeah, exactly.
They went to lessons.
You don't wish you could play piano that way. You wish you woke up with the ability to play piano that way.
Exactly. That's what I want.
Right. But that's not what life is. And what makes your art or your creative endeavor, what makes it have your thumbprint on it is your struggle in it and your lack of ability. Think of the Rolling Stones. They're a great band.
They're an amazing band. Some would even say better than the Beatles.
But Mick Jagger can't sing.
Can't. You're right.
He's not a good singer. He's a great showman, and he's a good songwriter, but he's a good songwriter for him.
And he will never die.
Well, yeah.
X that point, because that'll be really badly timed.
Oh, yeah.
If he dies this week.
So he's a great showman. He's a great songer. He's a great songer.
He's a great songer.
He's a great songwriter for him, right? He writes, and Bob Dylan. If somebody tries to sing a Bob Dylan song, you know who they're singing, but it works because it's him.
Yeah.
But if Bob Dylan or Mick Jagger tried to be
Axl
Rose or Mariah Carey or Chris Stapleton or, you know, Christina Aguilera, it would be the worst thing.
Yeah, and I would like to add, I love Christina Aguilera, but only Christina Aguilera can be Christina Aguilera. Like, no one else should try to do that.
Okay, but... And that's a great point. And only Katie can be Katie.
Oh.
The best mom in the whole world. Sorry, Mom. Well, she doesn't watch this. But that's the thing. You have your abilities, your attributes, your knowledge, your experience, your time and effort and means, and all of those things put together, including your struggle, including hating your own work, or, you know, like those struggles you have to overcome. That's what makes your work your work.
But I think we could summarize kind of what we're saying and just do the work. Like, take all that uncomfortableness, all the self-loathing, and just do it. And then if you don't like it, do it again. And do it again and do it again and do it again until you like it.
And you don't have to show anybody at first.
Yes.
Even though we're making creative things, we want other people to experience it. And part of that reason is because we've experienced it and we felt good experiencing somebody else's work.
Yeah.
Allow other people to experience your work and to critique it and to enjoy it. Just go make something. Creativity is discovery. So do that.
And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what? Katie and Chris are so right. I just need to make something. And you've been inspired to make something. Do share it with us and tag us with our tag, which is #JustBeCreativePod. Hashtag that, and so that'll make us feel better that we made you feel better about making something. So that'll be this week's listener thing.
Challenge.
Listener challenge is that make something and hashtag us in it with the hashtags. I'm looking. Now it kind of makes me very excited. If we get like people making things, that would make me feel super excited.
Here's some ideas that are current for what we are experiencing right now. This is March of 2020, so we're in the self-isolation era of March of the COVID-19 kind of pandemic. Here's some inspirations for you to get started. Make what you wish someone else would make but hasn't yet.
That's a
That's a big goal. I think this isn't this will be leading into self-isolation.
That's a hefty goal.
But it is. But I think be minded. Like, if you don't know what to make, think about if you ever said, oh, I wish so-and-so would do this. If they haven't made it, if they haven't done it, then you do that. If you're ever waiting around for inspiration, just think about these things. And then also think about the fact that if you wish something existed, somebody else probably does too. You're probably not the only one who's interested in that. And now, don't do a carbon copy of what you think somebody would do, but say, like, okay, I wish this thing existed, or I wish they would have done this, but they never did. Whatever it is, you can take that and then you're going to put your own spin on it and let your own spin be put on it. So then a list of creative things to do during isolation or social distancing. So a lot of people are doing a drawing a day. You know, you can just draw different things, maybe in relation to what, you're seeing every day. Or you just pick a series of, I'm going to draw a different coffee mug every day or a different Little Debbie snack. Whatever it is, setting a goal is a way to get things done. And that's, at your job, at school, anything like that, things that get done are done because they're planned. So setting a goal to do something and then doing it, you will get something done. That's
so true. And I've done that with taking pictures every day.
Well, so I had your Corona photo diary.
Oh, you had that down. I didn't read your notes. Yeah. But what's funny about that is you pointed out when I said I'm going to take a picture, take 3 pictures. Well, I take way more than 3. I'm going to post 3 pictures every day. I'm just going to pick any random moment. The house doesn't have to be clean. The kids don't have to be dressed and have their hair done. I'm just going to say, I'm going to take my camera out right now. And like whatever's going on, I'm going to capture that. And one thing that kind of really, I was like, oh man, that's so true. Is you said you used to do that a lot. I used to take out my camera a lot and photograph the kids, or just have my camera and take pictures of them. And I never do that anymore. And I think it's just this like relationship I have with my camera now, where like that's work, and I don't always want to be working. So when I'm with the kids, I don't want to have work there. I want to be with them. But
you've taken some cool pictures.
And that's what's crazy about it, is like, I'm just going to do it. And in this whole process of taking pictures of the kids, I'm like, oh, wow, I really like this picture. Whereas like today's pictures, I'm just like, but I'm not going to hit every day. I'm not going to have a picture that I hit out, that I knock out the park.
Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying taking photographs again. I think applying this to what we're talking about today, you've been taking the coronavirus isolation photos every day.
Yes.
One thing is, she set a goal. She said, I'm going to take, there's 3 other people in the house, so I guess maybe that's why you said 3.
Yeah, picture of each other.
I'm going to have a picture of everybody a day doing what they're doing during isolation. So that's your goal.
Yeah.
You know what your canvas is. It's your photo. Like, that's your medium. You're doing it for the joy of it, but you also have a goal. So, that's making you do it. But then also something that, I've kind of caught on to is that right now we're in the 7th day, 10th day. We don't live in a big neighborhood. Our house isn't changing. We're not changing that much. So it's pushing you to discover new ways of taking an interesting photo every day that doesn't look like the photo from yesterday or the week before, because you want it to look like something happened. So having that goal, doing the work, it's pushing you into, and like you said, you've been taking more photos, not fewer. So even in this thing of where you're like, you should be running out of ideas, you're actually ending up taking a lot more photos.
Correct.
And you're thinking ahead, like we're going to do a yard picnic. That'll probably be my photo tomorrow. Like those kind of things.
Yeah.
In any creative project, like that's just, I think, a good example of putting all those things together. And some days it's going to be better than others. One photo of one kid might be better than the other from one day to the other or whatever. But you're not necessarily worried about that. You're worried about just capturing the day, and you're telling a story overall.
Yeah.
On a day-by-day basis. But you don't want to tell the same exact story every day. And so that'll probably be something that in a week or 2 from now might be even harder to, it's going to be harder to do, an interesting thing. And that's going to make you want to quit, maybe, oh, I don't have to do it today. I did it, I've done it. So, but just tell yourself you're going to stick with it. And then you might have some slumps, but then on the other side of it, I think you'll end up coming out with better photos on the end of it than you did at the beginning, and more interesting things, because you're pushing beyond just the 3 chords. Here's my son's face smiling with the background blurred out, which is beautiful. I mean, I love the way our children look. They're cute. But then you're going to figure out ways of making more interesting photos the longer it goes. So start a podcast. That's another option. Don't, because we did. You've figured out a creative way of to do some drive-by shootings.
Yeah, and that all actually came out of taking pictures of the kids. So, and that's, I guess, part of the whole do the work thing is me. So taking 3 pictures a day has led to this huge project now that I've undertaken, where I'm like, oh man, this is going to be huge, where I'm doing these drive-by shootings where I'm going to these different neighborhoods and saying, today I'm going to be driving by your house and taking pictures. Mm-hmm. And all that came out of just my desire to take pictures of the kids. And I never would have done any of this. I'd have been sitting here looking for work to do.
Right. So sometimes you got to make that work happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're inspired because you're doing work.
Yes.
I've been editing. My normal job hasn't been cut back like yours.
Yeah.
And then on that time doing podcast stuff. But like, even just getting more into different aspects of social media and things like that. And then like not feeling awkward, like we're going to share this with people that are our friends. Like I don't want to bombard my friends with stuff. And I'm not a very good sharer, which is weird probably for somebody who is a visual artist. It's not weird. It's just not very helpful all the time. So yeah, those are some ideas. Pick something, do something once a day, give yourself a goal. Push through it, even if it's bad, still do it. And even if it's bad in your eyes, still do it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find something that you don't like to do, or a way of not doing it, and then it's going to push you in a way of doing it.
Do you have any resource recommendations?
I do.
I'm being a white. I have been practicing for this day for a very long time.
Well, then you do it. And I'll talk about it. Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. There will be a link to it. You can see it's not very much, well, if you can't see, it's not a very big book. It's only about 100 pages. It's an easy read. 10 ways to, okay, thank you. I need to look at it. Unlock your creativity. And then there's kind of like 10 chapters, but each chapter is only a few pages. I did share this on my personal artist Instagram the other day. Our friend Jolie, she bought it, and she's like, I wish I would have got this years ago. Mm-hmm. I forgot, Jolie, I'm sorry, that's a misquote, but that's what she essentially said. She's like, Chris, you're the smartest dude ever. I love your recommendations. They're always spot on.
That's exactly what Jolie said.
Yeah, she said, this book has changed my life. I will never be the same. And your drawings are super cool, and I love your beard. More or less an exact quote. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking this out if your Amazon is still running at this point, delivering things. And it's only, I think you can get it for about $10. And you can read it and reread it, and it'll be a good inspiration for you.
I should probably read this.
And she's going to read it.
I'm going to read it.
She'll talk about it next week.
It says be nice. I like that.
Be nice.
That's really good. That's a really good advice. So that's a good book. It's a good book. Everyone should get it. I will read this. And I think we have a show now.
Yeah. So that's the end.
If y'all have any questions, please let us know. Anything you want us to talk about. We would love to hear your feedback, both good and bad, or bad. Good or bad. Bad or good.
I don't know what. Do you want this on?
No, this part I want on. This is a good part. This is not the best podcast out there to listen to. This podcast could be better than we're making it right now.
And it will be.
And it will be better.
The new microphones. On Instagram and Facebook, we're interacting with a lot of people at Just Be Creative Pod. And you can hear us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can find podcasts. But you might be watching it, and because we have it on YouTube and Facebook, the video broadcast as well, and my wife is very animated. So
It's true. I am.
she's literally a cartoon. So if you want to watch it, if you're more into that kind of thing, you can do it. Also,
hey, babes.
watch the Lion King guy.
Y'all.
What's his
It's called, his name is Joe Exotic. We stayed up to past midnight last night. Mm-hmm. I think we probably are going to go watch some more now.
Yes, that's why I'm wishing you would wrap it up.
Probably not going to go to sleep tonight until 3 a.m. because we're going to want to watch all the episodes.
Wrap
it
it
looks so good. But I did want to say, hey, babes, what if I wanted to follow not just the podcast, but maybe just you and what you do as an artist? Where can I find you at on the gram?
Go to @JustBeCreativePod, and my link is in the description.
Oh, what's your link? Like, what's your name?
No one's going to spell my Krist Norsworthy Art.
You better not be following him on Instagram.
It's easier just to... okay.
You can cut that out, but maybe just slice it just to show it to some of our friends, or I'm threatening all the listeners.
That's
of our
definitely
podcast.
staying in.
No. That was a joke. All right, so Just Be Creative Pod. Yeah. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening to us. Go watch The Lion King. It's not called The Lion King.